Okay, so in this video, we're going to learn about arrays. Essentially, when you have, say, 5 or more data items, if you want to keep track of them, it's not necessarily practical to develop a separate variable for each one. So what we do is we use arrays to allow us to store all of our values into a single variable, but then reference them as an index. So to get started with an example, let's create a file. And we will create a text document. We're going to call this one lesson9.java. And yes, I want to change that. And we'll drag that into Notepad++. And I'll set up the class structure ahead of time from now on, so you don't have to watch me type this, because everybody knows how to do it at this point. So let's say I have an array of names based on user input. So I would declare my names array like this. I'd make it a string because it's going to contain text, and I put 2 brackets there to tell Java that it's an array that I'm creating. So I'm creating an array of strings, and I'm going to call it names. That's the identifier, and then I'm going to say that that is a new string array. And key part of this is that I have to specify the size of the array ahead of time. So I'm going to have to put, what did we say, 5. So I'm going to have to put 5 in there to tell Java, hey, I'm going to put 5 things in there. So once I get that set up, I can start taking some inputs for some of the names. So the way I set up user input is I'll just say scanner keyboard equals new scanner, and it's going to be from system input. And I haven't declared the scanner yet, so I got to do that up top. I'm going to import Java util scanner. So I have my scanner set up, and now I'm going to prompt for user input. So I'll print out a line, and I'll say, please enter 5 names. And I don't need to do much else than that, because I can just enter all 5 of my names at once, and I'll show you how to make Java read those one after the other. So now we can just set up a simple for loop, and I can say for, and we'll start with I, so we'll say int I. Will declare the integer I, set it equal to 0 to start off with. So it's going to start out at 0, and we're going to keep running the loop as long as I is less than the length of the names array, which is 5. So as long as it's less than names.length, and then we're going to go up by 1 each time the loop runs. So now that I have this set up, each time the loop runs, what I'm going to say is I'm going to set the value of names at position I to keyboard.next. So every time I run the loop, the position of I is going to change. It starts off at 0. So names at position 0 is going to be the next string that I find in this keyboard input that I set up here. And then as the loop runs again, I'm going to add 1 to I. And so let's say on the second run, I would be equal to 1. So names at position 1 would then be set to the next string that I find in the user input after that. So it'll keep going and go to the next input and the next input and the next input until it runs through all 5, and then our array should be all full. So this actually fills the array, and now we are going to print the array. So in order to print the array, I can use what's called the enhanced for loop. And the enhanced for loop allows us to use a simpler method to print out values and that kind of thing for arrays and strings specifically, because they have a set number of values and an index. It makes it easier for us to use these shortcuts. So we can say for each item in names. So the way I do that is I declare a variable for it, and I'm just going to, it's going to be a string variable, and I'm going to call it name. So for each name in the array names, and then each time I find a value in this, I'm going to run some sort of an operation. And in this case, I'm going to print out the name, and I can just say print line. And that should print out the array. So if I run this, you can see it'll say please enter 5 names, and I'll say Bobby, Freddie, Linda, Samantha, let's go Steve. And you can see it printed out my names. But I don't want to just stop there because that looks kind of goofy. I actually want to show you guys what sort of a visual representation of our array looks like at this point. So I would probably do something like, I'll do some quotes. Let's go here, plus name, and then plus another one of these. Let's go, yeah, let's do that. And then actually we'll do a space in between as well. And instead of print line, let's just do print, because we don't want to skip a line afterwards. We're just going to do that one after the other. And maybe I'll even put a comma in here too. So let's go ahead and try that again. I'll say Bobby, Frank, Louis, Martha, Angela. And that is kind of a visual representation of what our array looks like. It's 5 slots, and it's all filled with the 5 different strings that we input. And because these are string objects stored in the names array, we can actually access those string objects specifically, and we can run some of the methods that we know we have on our strings to get information from them. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So if I have name right here, I can say name dot, and I can just print out the length of the string. So even though I don't want to print these strings out directly, I can print the length of them. So I'm just going to copy these really quick because I don't want to retype them. And I can, don't forget your parentheses on this one. The other thing that I want to, that we probably need to cover is that when you're doing length on an array, you don't need to use the parentheses, because on array objects, the length is actually a required input, and it goes straight into an instance variable on that object. So this is actually referred to as a property because it goes to an actual variable, and it doesn't require us to run a method. It's a different story with the string. The string's length is actually a method, so you have to actually run that operation in order to get the length. It's a completely different story. So we want to get the length of each of the strings that we input on here. So we can do stuff like this, and if I run this, and I'll go ahead and put these all in as inputs again. I guess it doesn't exactly work that way. It won't let me do it. So let's run that again. Bobby, Frank, Louis, Martha, Gina. So it'll print the actual length of these strings. So Bobby's 5 letters. Let's see what the 6 over here is, the second to last. So Martha actually has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's actually right. So in each case, I'm taking that string object that I put into the array here, and I'm actually running the length method on it to get the actual numbered length of the string. So that gives us a pretty good start on arrays. On the next video, we'll go over how to manipulate numerical data in strings.